All right, so let's get started. I'm sure we've heard from a lot of clients, just friends that own businesses, colleagues, whatnot, with basically a lot of uncertainty, I guess fear of what to do for your business, how to keep employees employed. And then just obviously we're being inundated with just the news and nonstop things that are coming out, which may or may not be in place. And so what our team has done is compiled together what we could. We've researched a bunch, some tips, some just general information about tax, unemployment, loans, and then also, I don't know if any of you followed, but there's just earlier this weekend, there was an announcement of some tax credits by the IRS. Unfortunately, at this point, we still have not heard from the state of Massachusetts on what they're going to be doing at all. They've pretty much been silent, other than talking about those loans last week. I'm assuming they're going to come out with something tomorrow, or hopefully they will. That will kind of fall in line with some of the tax credits that have just been issued by the IRS, and maybe some other items. But for right now, the information that we have is what we could put together, and I'm sure a lot of it will change in the next few days, but hopefully it will help you guys out and start relieving some fears and some concerns that you may have. So we just want to make sure that we're all business owners. We can get through this. You just have to, persistence is the key right now. So, oh, sorry, now I can't move my webinar thing for some reason. All right. So the agenda, we're going to go over tax filing and payment deadlines that have been extended. People have asked questions about unemployment. Quickly go over that. Some loans and credit cards ideas that we have. We'll go over paid leave, the announcements by the IRS this past Friday night, which includes the tax credits. We have Howe. He's going to briefly discuss some financial and retirement tips, retirement ideas, and then we have some tips in general, and then we can go into some type of go over questions people have in an open forum type, the best way that we can with all these people attending. Just some housekeeping items. You can ask questions via the chat under questions and answers. We do have a team that are trying to work on this in the background, but we might not be able to get to all the questions via chat right away, and we'll do our best to. But please ask via chat. If you do, there is a hand raising ability next to you. You can raise your hand, but I'm probably not going to take a break to answer that question, so it's best to just do it through the chat feature. All right, so the first thing I want to go over, tax filing and payment deadlines. The tax filing deadline for any returns that were due on April 15th are now extended to 7/15. This is for individual tax returns, trusts and estates that have a calendar year, and C corporations. So this isn't something you have to apply for. It's just automatic. The April 15th deadline is now July 15th. Any tax payments that were normally due on the 15th of April are now due on July 15th. Again, you don't have to apply, put in a submission for an extension. It's just, they're just not due until then. That includes any individual tax that you owe for 2019. So if you prepare your return, file it, it's now due on July 15th. Also, any estimated tax payments for 2020 with the April 15th payment date is now due on July 15th. So that's also pushed out. Any C corporation tax and then taxes for estates and trusts are also pushed out to July 15th. This is pretty straightforward, self-explanatory. Again, nothing has to be physically filed as an extension for these dates. It just is. So recommendations that we have internally for our clients and anybody kind of listening for filing tax returns, we still don't we don't want you to wait. We think you should file your 1040 returns. If you have a corp on extension, file that as well. If you are due a refund, file it, and they're still being issued by the IRS within 21 days of filing. That's what they say right now. That's their announcement. If you owe tax, you don't have to file it right now, but getting it prepared and ready to go will give you time to plan and set aside money for the tax. So again, the returns don't have to be filed right away, but preparing them is very important. So even if you think you owe or you do owe, don't wait on getting that prepared, just so you can plan and set aside money from now until then, until the tax is due, and be prepared for that. All right, so I'm going to briefly go over unemployment. This is specifically for Massachusetts. Other states are, I believe, pretty similar, like Florida, but I'm not positive. Massachusetts had a 1-week waiting period. This waiting period has been waived. The unemployment will pay benefits if a worker is quarantined, by the medical professional, or they leave employment due to reasonable risk of exposure or infection, or to care for a family member. Before this, they wouldn't have been paid for this necessarily, but now they are. And the worker does not have to provide medical documentation, and you only have to be at work if you're ready and able to. Currently, self-employed individuals are not eligible for unemployment benefits. It says right there, if the President of the United States makes a disaster unemployment declaration for Massachusetts or nationwide, the self-employed and 1099 contractors would become eligible for unemployment assistance. It's already set up in the system. So if that does happen, then maybe some self-employed people will be able to collect unemployment as well. And we don't know how that will work, but that could happen. More unemployment. For temporary workplace shutdowns related to the COVID-19, employees are eligible to collect unemployment benefits if their workplace is shut down and expects to reopen. This applies to all employees, including full and part-time, who are impacted by such shutdowns. But the workers have conditions that they have to still abide by. They must remain in contact with their employers during the shutdown. They must be available for any work their employer may have and are able to do. And an employer may request to extend the period of covered shutdown to 8 weeks, because right now they decrease the amount of time. I am not positive on the thing. I think it's 4 weeks, but they can request to increase it to 8 weeks, and the employee will remain eligible for the longer period under the same conditions. As described above, they still have to do the items above. And of course, the unemployment can also extend these time periods. A big thing to note, if you own a company and you are an S Corp, for example, and you've been taking a paycheck, you get a W-2, you are also eligible to apply for unemployment, which is big. So we do have a couple polling questions throughout this just to get an idea of what's going on. So if you guys want to just answer those questions for us, we're just trying to get a picture of what's going on for our clients in the business community. Right now we're half people have voted. All right, we're almost there. Just need a little bit more. If you don't mind. This is just what this is going to do. These questions are going to do. We're going to focus our next communication with clients and the businesses in general, so we know what's important to people and how we're going to actually help you guys out in the next coming days and weeks. So that's why these questions are important to us, so we can figure out what to focus on moving forward. Almost done. I'll give it a couple more seconds here. All right, so far we have finding cash is the most concerning. Laying off employees is actually the least amount, and then other, which we don't have, obviously know exactly what other is 32%. If you have specific questions and concerns, obviously please email them to us, info@straightline.com, and we're, again, happy to put anything together and look into anything that we can for concerns for all the business owners out there. So right now, cash, which I agree with, is probably the biggest concern for small businesses. All right, I can share the results really quick. Yes, and check it out. All right, let's move on. All right, so a lot of people have been having questions about loans, lending, credit cards. We compiled some information. We do recommend, which I have as the last option here, that you contact your bank and look on bank websites. A lot of banks are coming up with FDIC insured loans. They're coming up with really good programs for small businesses. It's always a good idea. Everything's changing daily, as you guys know, but check out your bank, check out local, your resources that you have within the community to see what else is out there. A lot of, like for example, the restaurant industry, the associations are also putting together grants and loans for restaurant employees and restaurant owners. So reach out to your associations if you're part of them, groups that you're part of, anything. Some people might know something that you don't that could be worth it to you. For example, Facebook is offering $5,000 business grants for media companies. So there's all sorts of things out there that I'm sure will pop out a lot more in the future. But for right now, there's SBA disaster loans. So this is the most popular one that's been seen, I believe, throughout. You do have to apply with the SBA. You must be in a declared disaster zone. All of Massachusetts and Florida is. Most other states have a lot of counties that are and whatnot. And I'm sure by the end of the week, everybody will be. You do need to have up-to-date financials. So your books have to be up-to-date and in good order, and most recent tax returns. There's a few different types of the SBA loans. I'm really just going to go over these briefly because there's a lot of information online you can go over and things are changing daily. So I'm not going to really dive into the nitty-gritty of the loans. I'd rather do the tax credits more. But there's types are home and personal property loans, business physical disaster loans, economic injury disaster loan, which is the one that's the most popular right now, and the military reservist economic injury loans. These do take time to apply for. They're being inundated right now with applications. We are able to help with them. Employee and business owners can do them themselves. However, having a professional do them might increase your chance of actually being approved and being approved for the highest amount. So we do recommend that you have an accountant or us prepare them for you, or at least review them for you and help you provide the documentation. Another thing about loans is we do think they're a good idea to have, quote unquote, in your back pocket. So if you don't have any access to cash right now, we do recommend that you should be applying for something. The interest rates are pretty low. You need to have access to cash. We don't recommend that you immediately dive into it, because going into debt and in the long term, it's going to just set yourself up not well for the future. But having access to cash is going to be huge right now. So basically, getting any type of application going is a good idea right now. Locally, Eastern Bank has an express business loan. It's up to $100,000. You can contact your local Eastern Bank for that information. It is actually pretty quick, the application process and the approval process. I'm not sure about right now, but these are just ideas that I was just kind of putting together. If you have a home equity line of credit, you could use that. Usually the interest rates are actually very low on those. That's kind of when you should be tapping into it. You could also, you might be able to start applying for a home equity line of credit. I'm not sure what house values are like right now or how long that will take. The other thing I want to say about lines of credit, if you happen to have any lines of credit that you're not utilizing right now, if you have no cash advance from them, it's probably a good idea to maybe just, and you don't need the cash, you might want to just draw out like $1,000 or $2,000 and set it aside, just so that the bank knows that you still are going to use that account, or you want it available. Some banks, if you have a time period of inactivity, they might close out that line of credit, and you don't want that to happen right now. So it might be worth it to pull out, a couple thousand, just set it aside, just so the bank knows you're still using that line of credit. That's for business and personal. And again, check out your bank, your local bank. We have a lot of resources with banks too. So if you need somebody, just let us know. There's also some credit cards out there. Again, I don't like loans or credit cards, but there's some really good 0% credit cards. Right now, Rockland Trust is offering commercial and a personal credit card for up to 20 months of 0% interest. You can transfer, this might be a good idea if you have other credit cards that have high interest rates. You could transfer the balance. There is a 3% one-time transfer fee for that, or a cash advance, but then it's a 0% loan essentially for 20 months. Donna Healy at the local Rockland Trust, that's her contact information. She can help with that. I researched some other 0%. You can easily just go Google 0% credit cards, but Chase Freedom has up to 15 months. American Express Blue has up to 15 months. So this might be a good idea just to have credit available, even if you don't need it, just to apply for it. Again, it will take some time, so just applying for credit cards might be a good idea. Sorry, I'm just reading here. I just want to check out my chat really quick to make sure I'm not missing anything. All right. So credit cards, again, might be a good idea for you and your business, just to have access to credit. Okay. So now we're going into the legislation that was passed this weekend about paid family leave and the tax credits. I'm going to, my father is actually on this, Harry Honan. I'm going to unmute him because he's also going to contribute with me to this. I just have to figure out which one he is. Dad, is that you? Hold on a second. Well, I'll just get started because I can't figure out how to unmute him. Sorry about that.
I'm unmuted. I got
there
it.
we go. So I'm going to start this out, and Dad, you can interject when you feel like it. Harry Honan is my father. He's a CPA for the past 40-something years.
36.
I contribute everything I know to him and all of my well-being. He is an amazing person. There you go. So paid leave. The first part of what they passed was paid leave. So employers with 50 employees or more have to offer paid leave to all of their employees. And they don't specify if it's for full-time or part-time. I'm assuming it's for all employees. And we kind of interpreted this, and I just also want to preface this with, this is brand new information. We basically have a one-page sheet with paragraphs for each topic to go off of right now. They're supposed to provide a lot more guidance at the beginning of this week with exactly how much more details, how this is going to work. So a lot of this is our interpretation based on our experience, and we will let you know on that. So right now, our interpretation is there's two types of paid leave. The first is if an employee is unable to work because an employee is quarantined and or experiencing the COVID-19 symptoms and seeking a medical diagnosis. So they're home because they're sick, basically, or they're quarantined and they're not working. And the employer will pay up to 2 weeks or up to 80 hours at 100% of the employee's pay. The second type is if an employee is unable to work because they have to be home caring for someone that's in the quarantine, or for their kids. Their school's closed, their child care provider's unavailable, which is all of us, and for reasons related to COVID-19. The employer will pay up to 2 weeks, up to 80 hours at 2/3 of the employee's pay. In some instances, the employee may receive up to an additional 10 weeks of expanded paid and family medical leave act at 2/3 of the employee's pay. So this is specific for the employees that are staying home because of their kids or to take care of somebody for paid family medical leave. So it is a little bit different. The employer is not required to pay the full 100% of the employee's pay like they are if the employee is sick. This is, again, probably up for people's interpretation. So it's kind of how you want to take this, the type of employee they are.
Can I say something?
Wait, go ahead.
On that first type up there, the first type of paid leave, what she has written there is employees unable to work because the employee is quarantined. The wording in the actual document they sent out said quarantined, and they also mentioned self-quarantined. So it apparently does not require like somebody, some official to quarantine you, like the CDC or a hospital or a doctor. It could be self-quarantine. So in that first one, that leaves that open to interpretation, I think. For instance, you have 5 people in your office or wherever you work, and one of them doesn't want to come in, or 2 of them don't want to come in because they're afraid they're going to get something. They're vulnerable people. Maybe they're in their 60s, or maybe they have some kind of an illness. So they just decide and they tell you, I got to go home. I can't take a chance being here. That's self-quarantine. I believe they qualify for that sick pay in that instance. So that's kind of important. And the other thing is, at the very top where it says employers with 50 employees or more have to offer paid leave. Well, If you have 50 or more employees, you do have to offer it. If you have less than 50 employees, they're encouraging you to offer it. That the distinction is that under 50, it's not mandatory. However, you may find as we go on here that it may be well worth your while to take advantage of this, even if you have less than 50 employees, which is most of our clients. That's what I wanted to say about that.
All right. Thank you. All right. So part of this paid leave is there's a credit. So yes, you are required if you have over 50 employees, or you can opt in to do paid leave if you're under 50 employees, but there is a credit available to you for employers. So for the type 1, the first type of employee that's unable to work due to the COVID-19 quarantine, self-quarantine, or has symptoms, the employer is eligible to receive a refundable sick leave credit for sick leave pay at the employee's regular rate of pay up to $511 per day, or $5,100 in the aggregate for a total of 10 days. So again, we are interpreting this ourselves. We are interpreting it that this is the $511 is per employee per day, up to $5,100 per employee. We do not know if this is true, but this is what we're assuming, because what is $5,100 really going to do for a business if that's the entire amount? The second type of employee, the one that's unable to work due to caring for someone or their child care is closed, the employer is eligible to claim credit for 2/3 of the employee's regular rate of pay, up to $200 per day, and an aggregate of $2,000 for 10 days. Again, we think it's per employee. And so basically this is, since you're paying these people their full regular amount of pay, or 2/3, it's a 100% credit for their pay. So you're paying them, but you're not have to pay for it.
You want me to explain it on the way I see it?
Go ahead.
Yeah. So you would pay the people the quote unquote sick pay, but then the IRS is going to pay you back very quickly. And the way they're going to do it is they're going to do it through reducing your payroll taxes.
We're getting to that.
Okay. So go ahead then.
Okay, so also part of this, eligible employers are entitled to an additional tax credit determined based on costs to maintain health insurance coverage for the eligible employees during this leave period. So if you have health insurance coverage for these people, then we don't know what the credit's gonna be or how we're gonna get that. We're assuming it's through the same way for the pay, but it's for health insurance as well, which is pretty significant. So there's a child care leave credit, which is in addition to the sick leave credit. So if you have, in addition to the sick leave credit, if an employee is unable to work because of the need to care for a child whose school facility is closed, eligible employers may receive a refundable child care leave credit. We don't know if this credit is on top of the additional sick leave, paid family leave credit, or if it's like in addition to, or if it's in lieu of. So again,
the IRS notice says it's in addition to.
Okay.
However, we need more guidance on that.
Yes. So it's equal to 2/3 of the employee's regular pay, capped at $200 per day, or $10,000 in the aggregate. It's up to 10 weeks of qualifying leave can be counted towards child care leave. So that's much more than just the paid leave. And is again for the health insurance, the same thing with the additional tax credit determined for the health insurance. So we are interpreting this as additional leave credit for the employer, but we might not be right, and we need more guidance on it. We're going to do a quick another polling question. If you guys don't mind, just bear with me because I have to figure out how to do it again.
I'm going to say something while you're doing that.
Go ahead, you can talk.
While we're going through this, I know that there are a million questions going through your head, because it was when I first read it. And we can only answer them one at a time, but keep paying attention. We're going to answer some of those questions going forward here, and then we can answer the other questions after that.
Okay, we're just letting for those questions. Someone did ask paid leave versus filing unemployment. We will be talking about that in a minute. And as far as we can tell with these leave is you don't know what it's, you don't necessarily have to be sick. Self-quarantining, I mean, that's what we're doing. That's what most businesses are doing. We're not allowed to go to work because of the social distancing and all that. So, sorry, I'm just reading questions. So it doesn't, you don't have to necessarily be sick. You have to be self-quarantined or quarantined. We're all quarantined as far as I'm concerned. We're all at home, not able to leave and not able to go to work. We don't, for right now, this is only for 10 days. That's the only thing we know for right now is 10 days. It's 10, and this isn't like 10 calendar days. This is 10 payroll days basically. So 2 weeks of pay for somebody. So, we all know how fast this is evolving. 2 weeks from now, everything could look totally different. They could have extended this to 30 days. I'm not really sure, but right now it is 10 days only. Again, not 10 calendar days, 10 like pay period days. Okay, how are we looking on the polling? We have 75% of people have voted. A couple more people. Okay, I'm just going to end it because I share the polling. So the questions were, how are you currently dealing with the economic slowdown? Are you finding new ways to increase your revenue? 11% said that. Doing nothing, that's 5%. Or accessing everything, reviewing income and expenses, client lists, service lines, etc. That's 84% people. Well, that's good. All right. Okay. Moving on. So the way that people will receive these credits, it's going to be directly through the paychecks and payroll. We are not going to get into the nitty-gritty of this because it's actually very complex, but it's going to be done, it's effective immediately, and it's going to be done through your payroll. So I really don't want to explain how it's done. My father might want to, but basically the employer will not have to pay in taxes for eligible employees receiving paid leave. They're still going to, you still have to pay these people, I'm using air quotes here, through payroll. And then what's supposed to happen is the amount of payroll taxes that you normally would have to pay in, you're not going to have to pay in. And it's basically to net out to zero. So Dad, you want to explain it a little bit more?
I'll do it by example.
There you go.
If you identify certain people that you want to pay this sick pay to under those two options that were explained earlier. So somebody self-quarantines or is quarantined at home for whatever reason, you can pay that person quote unquote sick pay in an amount. The amount is not defined by the IRS. What they say is it's basically on their regular pay. So if you have Joe Smith worked for you up until 2 weeks ago and he was making $500 a week, you could pay him sick pay up to the $500 a week. And then when you go to pay, and that's coming out of your pocket, then you file your payroll tax return, your payroll tax deposit, and you have to pay in either on a weekly, biweekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever basis. Each company is different on how they pay their payroll taxes into the IRS. But when it's paid, if you owed the government, say, $1,000 on that deposit, that next deposit that you had to make, so you pay somebody sick pay this week, and next week you got to do your payroll tax deposit, and the payroll tax deposit is $1,000, but you paid some sick leave the prior week of $500, then you'd only have to pay the IRS $500, which means the Treasury basically covered the sick pay for you, nothing out of your pocket. It's a zero effect to you. Then in a second example, if you paid out $2,000 worth of this sick pay, and next week you have to make a payroll tax deposit, of only $1,000 for some reason, but you paid out $2,000 in sick pay the prior week, you would wipe out the payroll tax deposit to zero, so you wouldn't pay any payroll tax deposit. And the other $1,000 that you paid for sick pay that come out of your pocket will be reimbursed by the Treasury. We're not sure how they're going to reimburse that. They just say they will. My guess, I'll give you my guess is you would just go ahead and apply it to the next payroll tax deposit and reduce that deposit and so on until you've used up all the credits towards the sick pay that you paid. If you don't use up the credits, my assumption is that they're going to send you an actual payment, a check, and they say they're going to do it quickly. It's the IRS, so I don't know what quickly means to them versus what it means to us, but you get the point. And that's the way I see it's going to work. That's for employers that have employees. And I saw some chat popped up there and everything, and the people, most of our clients that are self-employed, they own an S corp, and their husband and wife involved, or husband and children, or whatever, family members are involved in the S corp. They all qualify as far as we know for this, including the owners. Wouldn't make sense if they didn't, because they're trying to get money to people to spend and live and pay their bills. So at this point, it doesn't matter. We don't have to jump through hoops because we're business owners. We qualify just like everyone else. So it's a pretty wide open and flexible thing that I can see here. So get your thinking caps on, because you got to kind of plan a little bit here. I'll leave it open to your own interpretation, but that's how I see this thing is going, at least right now. That could change in 2 days. They may change the way this is going to be done, but it's a pretty efficient way of getting money to the public quickly.
Okay. There's a bunch of questions coming in.
We'll get to the self-employed stuff later.
Reviewing them really quick. So hold on one second. Do you want to? So for self-employed businesses, including active partners and partnerships, because they don't take paychecks. So if you file a 1065, these credits will also be available to self-employed individuals and active partners and partnerships. They're going to be equal to the amounts that we've already talked about, and the credits will be administered differently. We're not sure yet how it's going to be credit, how we're going to apply for it, but it is going to be available. I just wanted to address some questions people had really quick. Sorry,
do you want me to mention something about the self-employed that I do know?
Yep.
All right, so in the self-employed, the employer-employee relationship, that's fairly simple. It goes through payroll tax deposits and 941s. But on self-employed people, you're not making payroll tax deposits unless you've got employees, in which case those employees would come under the rules up above. But for you, the self-employed person or self-employed partner, what do? Well, they want to get you money too, so they're going to give you these credits via, you don't have to pay in, say, an estimated tax payment. So if you got a $5,000 estimated tax payment coming up, but you say that you should have made $5,000 that you didn't make, then you're going to get a credit for $5,000 and not have to pay the self-employment tax in, or the tax in. How they're going to administer that, I have no clue, because that's sort of self-reporting income. So they're going to have to come up with some kind of a baseline for this, like your prior year tax return or something, to show that you were making money and now you're not. That sort of thing. So that's how I see these self-employed going.
So I want to go some of the questions here. People keep asking if they should lay off their employees or they should pay them the sick leave. That's up to you. So right now, what my view of these tax credits is to keep people employed and off the unemployment for right now.
Up to them if they have less than the number of employees, less than 50.
Yes, but if you have less than 50, you can still opt in to do this, which we recommend. I recommend. If you have already laid off people and they're collecting unemployment, it's up to you if you want to then call them up and see if they, and see if you want to now do the sick leave, this paid leave. You can do that. If you haven't laid off people, this is the other option, is to do this. So it's really up to you. Again, we have no guidance from the state what's going to happen with unemployment rates. I really, really hope that they either put a cap on the max that unemployment rates can go up to, because what happens if you're not familiar with unemployment, the more people that collect, the higher your rate goes. Then there's a look back period and all this stuff, so you actually wouldn't feel it till next year, 2021. But I'm hoping that they cap the rate that it will go up to, or they just don't increase it. They freeze the rates based on people collecting during this time period, but we do not know that. Again, the state has not issued anything. Hold on, so it's sort of up to you if you want to lay people off, but this is the alternate option right now, is to do the sick leave. You keep your people employed, you get credits. It's not a bad way to go. And self-employed, we just want to clarify, that's for people that file Schedule Cs, they're a DBA or a sole proprietorship, or they're a partner in like a 1065. They are not an S Corp and do not take payroll. But if you take payroll right now, you can do this. You're not working, you can do this. And again, you don't have to be sick. You can just be home not working because your company had to close because of all this. So if you're a florist and there's no work, you qualify for this. Because you're technically self-quarantined, right?
Yes, there was a question, Aaron, I saw pop up about what about working at home? So if you've got employees, including yourself, and you're working at home, well, then you're still working. Are you still getting paid? If you're still getting paid, then that's not sick pay, it's just regular pay because you're working. But I can say this, that I know that I'm pretty sure, I'd be pretty confident that a lot of people that have to go home and say take care of children, there's no way they can put in a full day, or at least like they would at the office. So are they really working full time at home? You're getting is the business getting the same benefit out of that person that's working at home than they would if they were in the office? So I think this is open to interpretation, is what I'm saying.
Yes, and also people ask about sick leave. So technically, it doesn't have to go into place. You don't have to offer for, I think it was 10 days I saw, and people can use sick leave, but this is on top of sick leave. This is not to be used together. You're not supposed to make somebody use their sick leave ahead of time, but I believe there is a 10-day waiting period you can impose. My opinion is, if you're able to take these credits and people aren't working, then kind of why not do it? It keeps people getting paid, and it's really not hurting your business.
Right. My understanding is if somebody's accrued sick pay in your company, I saw a question from Fisherman's View about that. If they've accrued sick pay sitting on the books, unless they want to use it up, they could use it up. But let's say they don't want to use it up, but you're going to pay them sick pay. That doesn't count towards the days of sick pay they've accrued with you. It shouldn't. That's stay in place. This is additional sick pay.
Yeah.
Aaron just said that.
Yeah.
And you'll get reimbursed for it. So it's a good deal.
Someone asked about, your payroll company are absolutely the ones to be doing this. They just announced this Friday night. I do think the large payroll agencies like ADP and Paychex had an inside to this earlier. It's up to them to get their software updated for this. I know for our clients, we will be checking this and figuring this out internally and checking it like a hawk to make sure this stuff's happening. But yes, your payroll company, we have some clients that aren't on a payroll, so we do the stuff for them. We'll be doing it, but you're going to have to be patient, and you're going to have to make sure it's being done right. Have someone checking it to make sure the stuff is being processed properly. If you have payroll, I wouldn't go ahead and process it tomorrow. I would wait till you know for sure that it's ready to go. So this could be a good segue. If you do the credit first, you give the paid leave now, and then in 10 days, 2 weeks from now, if something hasn't changed, then you can look towards laying them off, putting them on unemployment for the temporary closure that they have there.
Something about the definition of sick pay I wanted to mention. Don't
We
get
can,
confused.
yep.
Don't get confused by the term sick pay. What they're speaking about in this particular new law is if you have a company and you don't really have sick pay, you don't provide sick pay, people don't accrue sick pay, that doesn't matter from what I can see. All that matters, they're calling this sick pay. So now you do have potential sick pay, even if you've never had it before, for this particular purpose.
I don't know if I answered Molly's question, but Molly had a question about, can you talk about paid leave versus laying people off, the cost of which is indirectly paid by the employer? As far as I can tell, this is if the state does not freeze unemployment rates and they ding you for people collecting right now, this is a much better way to go. To me personally, this is a much better way to go anyways for now while you can, because you're helping your employees out. They're not on the unemployment system, so it reduces the amount that's going to go into reduce from your bank that you have in unemployment. And maybe in 2 weeks they might extend this or something. So in my opinion, this is better than unemployment for right now, but that's up to you as a business owner.
A comment on that. If you already have employees, let's say you're a seasonal restaurant and you've laid off a bunch of employees, and we have clients like that. And they've been collecting unemployment, or fishing boats collecting, they don't collect unemployment unless they got payroll, but there's all kinds of businesses on the Cape and in Southeast Mass that lay people off in the landscaping businesses, lay people off in the winter, and they collect unemployment. Then all of a sudden everything kicks off at the end of March, beginning of April, which is where we are right now. If they're on unemployment now, we have no way of telling. Let's say you're a restaurant, we don't know when you're going to be able to open again. And if you've got employees that are on unemployment and you take them off unemployment to put them on this, and then you're not able to open for another month and a half or 2 months, well, they would have to go back and reapply for unemployment. So each person is going to be different here. This is going to be an individual decision on how you handle that, because you're going to increase the complexity of this if you try to jury rig how to collect the money. So you got to pick one and stay with it, I'd say, for once. But each company is going to make their own decision on this.
Okay, someone asked, how do you apply for paid leave? This isn't something you apply for. It's as a business owner, as an employer, you are going to pay people paid leave. And then when your payroll is run through a payroll provider, the credits, it's complex to explain. Some people are asking, when do we get the money? Is this going to be quarterly? It's supposed to be like live. So when you submit your payroll, it's $1,000 paycheck. You're not technically supposed to have any cash well, that's not true. You can have some money come out depending on how much the payroll is, how much payroll taxes are. But then if you are due any money, the IRS is supposed to either submit you a check, you have to apply to get the credit within 2 weeks or under, or they might allow you to apply it to a next period. I know that's very confusing. It is very confusing. It's not a simple tax thing to talk about. We can try to put something together to explain it more simply, but I think a lot more guidance with the explanation will be issued tomorrow, Tuesday, Wednesday, exactly how it's going to work. But it's supposed to be an immediate cash flow relief, not a quarterly, not something you'll see in 3 weeks, 4 weeks. It's supposed to be immediate. Hold on, let's see what else there are. Vicky, I'm not Puerto Rico. They're supposed to be, apparently this is for companies that have under 500 employees. This is not applicable to any companies that have over 500 employees. We should have mentioned that in the beginning. We just sort of didn't, because all of our clients have under 500 employees. But if you work for a large company that has over 500 employees, this does not apply to you at all.
Somebody asked me a question about over 500?
No, someone asked about a company organized in mass but working in Puerto Rico. I'll show you later.
Puerto Rico, I think, is probably going to qualify.
Well, for restaurants, so you're wondering how much you should pay them because people have tipped employees, it's going to be their gross wages plus their reported tips. I say this, or what their average hourly hours are by minimum wage. So whatever's greater, their gross pay plus tips, or whatever minimum wage works out to be for their average hours.
Are we still waiting for a little more guidance on the?
Yes, but that's my opinion of it. But yes, it's gross wages plus tips.
Yeah, that's just your opinion of it, though.
Yes, my opinion. Yes.
So when it makes the most sense.
Yes, but we know the government. So looking at all right, let me just continue really quick. I'm just going to bring in Will Howe really quick. We can go back to the questions about the credit. Will Howe, he is a financial advisor. Some people have had questions about what to do with their retirement plans, and I just want him to just speak on that, give some advice and maybe some tips. Trying to unmute him, but.
Hey guys, can you hear me? Good. Yeah, so I just wanted to run through a couple of quick things in regards to if you offer your employees a 401k and you're matching their contributions. If you have a plan that is considered not a safe harbor plan where you can decide what the match is going to be from year to year, you can essentially just stop that match going in and then just notify your employees that you're going to do that. And then with the safe harbor, which obviously you have had to make that match every year just to be able to, abide by the IRS rules. There's a couple ways you can actually stop that from happening. You would have to amend your plan documents, which is obviously a lot of work, and show that you're operating at a loss. So obviously that's kind of a hard thing to do, but that is an option. And then you might have, the biggest thing too also is to remember, if you miss a contribution out of that match, then that could cause an issue tax-wise for the plan's tax qualifications, could become jeopardized. So, that could become an issue. In regards to participant loans, if you have employees coming up requesting loans out of the plan, they can essentially take 50% of whatever that account value is that they're vested in, up to a $50,000 max. And then they have essentially 5 years to pay that loan back. If they leave the job, if they leave, they essentially have to pay that back, or they will get 1099, which they'll owe if they're younger than 59 and a half. They're going to owe a 10% penalty, as well as taxes. The penalty may be waived for now, but and then if you furlough your employees and they're paying back a 401k loan, the payments don't have to be made for up to 1 year. So if you bring them back after a year, they'll have to obviously start to make those loans, but it still has to be paid back over that 5-year span from the original loan. Simple IRA stuff. To cancel the employer match, you can do actually that. It should say you can only reduce it to 1% in any 2 years or any 5 years. So that if you're doing a 3% match now, then you can reduce that to 1% out of every 5 years. If unless they change that, Aaron, I'm not sure. Did they change that? I couldn't really find. That's the tradition. That's the rule in years that it's always been. I don't know if they changed that with this new tax law, but we can find that out. And your employees obviously can take a hardship withdrawal if needed. There's certain stipulations that they would, need to certain circumstances, for medical care, all those types of things. There's a few different things that would allow them to do that. So that's kind of all I just wanted to run through. Also, if IRAs, if you have a regular IRA and you take the money out of that, they're giving you actually 3 years to pay that back, or pay the taxes on it over the 3-year span rather than owing it in this specific year. So just to, you're probably going to have some of these questions from employees if they're kind of looking for money. So that's kind of all I had to add unless people had questions or whatnot.
Thank you. All right, cool. I'm going to mute you and keep going. So let me just see what the next slide is. Okay, so I just want to, people keep asking questions about, okay, so the next step, so we tell our payroll company want to implement paid leave. What is the next step for business? Yes, we don't know. We believe the pay will have to be coded as paid leave. I'm not sure. That has not been given. We are planning on, hopefully they have been working all weekend on the exact rules and guidance and how we're supposed to follow this, and we'll have it by tomorrow. I plan on doing another webinar on basically the soonest that we can, that we have the information to really dive into this and explain it. As of right now, it would be paid leave. I'm assuming that's the pay item. And it would be, it's kind of, you just sit tight. The next step is sit tight, I guess, for another day or two. Just to see what happens and how exactly we do this with payroll and when your payroll provider is ready. Erin says, you only have 10 employees is the better option. I would this is my opinion, if you're able to do this and you can do the credit, I would do this first before you go on unemployment. That's up to you. That's what it's there for. It's intended to not have to lay people off and get them through 2 weeks where hopefully we're back to work and functioning. That's my opinion. It's explaining it to employees. It's just called, they're at home not being paid. You just say, you're getting paid. This is either you're the 100% or the 2/3. And that's what you're getting paid. And that's it. They don't get a credit right now. This is it for them. They're just not on unemployment yet. Then you can tell them after this runs out, then they might have to be laid out and go on collect unemployment. So Jim, when you run your payroll, yes, you're an employee out of the S Corp. So yes, you will qualify to get this. Yes. And we can talk to you more about how to do it. What I do recommend is, I know this isn't an answer that everybody wants to hear, but following us on social media, reading our emails, any videos that we create, and attending another webinar. That's really the best way to go about this right now. This is brand new information to us and to everybody. So we don't have all the answers. We're just trying to provide just hope and let you guys know what's out there. So you at least know there's something in the works to help relieve you guys of cash flow and keep people employed and give money to employees so they don't have to go on unemployment. But please just follow us and read everything that we send out. That's basically my best advice right now. So I'm just going to move on to, we can again talk about the credit, but I just want some other tips that we have. Cut and reduce your expenses. I did a video a few days ago. I recommend going back and look at it. The first thing that you should do, I mean, you might need cash flow and you might need debt, but cutting and reducing any expenses is the first thing that you should do. Digging into debt, taking out any debt really should be your last ditch effort, because you can take out the loan, have it sitting there, but what I mean is using the funds from the loan. You should really be doing whatever you can to cut and reduce expenses. If it does not make your business money or it's not necessary for the operations of your company, you should cut it or reduce it. It might take a little while to feel the impact of it, but the next few months, it will really help your cash flow. My father has something to add to this. Go ahead, Dad.
Not to this.
Oh.
I had something to add to I've gotten questions already about when do I have to make my IRA contribution, or when do I have to make the 401k profit sharing?
All right, let's talk about, let me just finish this slide, then we can go over that. Is that cool?
Go ahead.
Okay. So you can call your credit card company and ask for an extension of payments and interest. I was speaking with a client and a friend yesterday. She called American Express and they waived interest for her credit card, and she doesn't have to pay it till May 10th. Call them. They're working. A lot of credit card companies are working with small business owners, especially if you have a good payment history. Make phone calls. If you have student loans, call them up and ask what they can do for you. A lot of them are deferring interest for 2 months. Some payments. I did read the reason why federal's in there is because they're not applicable to the private student loans. I'm hoping private student loan companies are doing things like Navient and Sallie Mae. Call your bank for other loan payments. Ally Bank has already started this. Allies for their car loans or auto loans, they've already started deferring payments there. There's also, for Massachusetts, I've unfortunately found kind of vague information on this, but sales and meals taxes, if you file sales and meals tax and pay it, and you paid less than $150,000 in sales, meals, or room occupancy taxes in 2019, the payments for March, April, and May sales are not due until June 20th. So that's a way to defer money. So what I will say, just because you're pushing out payments doesn't mean they're not going to come due soon or eventually. If you are deferring any payments, start setting aside money now. You're either going to owe them now or owe them later. You want to just, even if it's like $50 here and there, it's going to make a difference. Just start setting aside the money. Don't just have the mindset that I'll just pay it in 3 months, because you might not have the money, built up in 3 months, or you're just getting open and start up again. So please open a separate account if you have to, and just start setting aside money just for whatever you can. And then also, like I said, communicate with your customers and clients, communicate early and often. We've come across a couple professional companies that have phone messages that they're closed when they really weren't, stuff like that. You don't want to lose customers and clients at this point. You want to keep them. So communication with people is imperative. You want to make them know that you're there, you're working around this. So whatever you can do to communicate with your clients and customers so that they feel good and they know you're still there, they want to support you. That's my tips with that. So, Dad, you can go over the 401k stuff?
Turn me on. Yeah. Just quickly, I'm getting questions from people about when do I have to deposit my IRA contribution for 2019. The normal due date is April 15th. They haven't mentioned this in anything from the IRS. So just plan on April 15th for the time being. That will probably change in the next few days or next week. And if we do, like I said, watch our information stuff in our emails. And watch online too. You'll see it online also, and it might be on the TV. But I think they'll probably defer it. For 401ks, for companies that do 401ks and profit sharings, they haven't addressed that either. So I would plan on paying in when you're supposed to pay in, at least the ones that know me and I do the work with. If you have any questions about that, just call me directly. And if you're doing a 401k and I'm not doing it, then you have somebody else doing it, they'll tell you what to do. That's all.
Somebody asked, I just want to reiterate, someone asked, so they only get 2/3 of their pay. No, you get 2/3 of your pay if they qualify under the second type of employee. But again, we're not telling you which one you should go with or which one you qualify for. The first option is the person's home because they're sick, they're quarantined, or they're self-quarantined. So they might have children there, but they're self-quarantined too. So if they're self-quarantined, to me, they meet the criteria of qualifying for the first type, which is 100%, not 2/3.
I think the distinction is there. At first, when I first read it, I couldn't see the distinction, but I think there is a distinction. If the only reason you're home, the only known reason you'd be home is to take care of kids because they can't go to school, then you're the number 2 person, the 2/3 of your pay person. If, however,
it also is
home,
quarantined.
but if you're home taking care of somebody with the disease or the virus, or you have it, and you're quarantined, then you qualify for the first one, which is 100%. But it also mentions home or self-quarantine in that first one. So that's open to interpretation, is what we said before. You're at home, you've got kids because they're home from school, and you're self-quarantining. You're doing both. So which one do you qualify for? I would say probably the 100% one, if you're not working. The other one is just incidental to that, because you're getting to take care of your kids and have all this wonderful time with your children now that you wanted all along. And that's how I see it. But we're going to get, again, the details of that, we don't know. All we know is what we know, what we showed you. The wording that she's showing you here is directly off of the IRS website.
All right. Again, you don't have to have 50 employees or more to qualify for this. If you have under 50, you can do this. You can still offer that. You can still qualify for these credits. They're just saying if you have 50 employees or more, you're mandated to do this, to paid sick leave, or paid family leave. Sorry, not sick leave. I have to make sure sorry, I'm just going through questions to make sure we're, S Corps do not have estimated tax payments unless maybe the state of Mass does if you have a large S Corp, but that deadline has already passed of 3/16. They did not extend it. So if your S Corp is not filed yet, you're technically late. All right. Okay, let me go to the next slide. Oh, one more polling question, because we're really, really trying to help figure out more resources to offer you guys here. Oh, Jesus. And I'm hitting all the wrong buttons. Let's go. Are you currently open for business? This should be a quick answer. And then after this, I'm going to have Jake actually has Jake was on a call with the state on Friday. They went over a bunch of information, and I'm going to let him talk about some of the items that he said was really important after we do this polling question. Some of them directly related to unemployment, I believe. I was just muted. 67% are open for business. So like we are, we're fully open, fully functional. But looks like you guys are making it happen, which is great. 33% are not. I don't know if I was muted or not. Sorry. Jake will be talking about what he learned from the state. He had a call on Friday to go over some stuff. And just to let you know, our 3-year-old daughter is also in his office. So if you hear her, she's just a sweet little angel baby, and that's just her. But he's going to go over what he learned from the state regarding some topics and unemployment. So Jake, I'm going to unmute you, and you can, you're going to unmute yourself, and you can
stop touching
it.
So I was on a call Friday with the Housing and Economic Development office in Boston. They had an open call, and I guess they've been doing them either daily or weekly, and they're also posting some seminars and webinars too, but they didn't really give much information on that. So we'll be following up to get hopefully some more resources and links to provide. What I took from the call was basically there's 5 things going on in Massachusetts right now. One was some of it, they were kind of just putting out some rumors or just answering questions to some rumors about the National Guard being put in place. I guess that was really just a preliminary thing that they wanted to have available in case things got worse in different pockets of the state. So that was just a really quick thing. Related to unemployment, they're already at record levels with claims. And I think it's still very early. So that's just going to continue to get worse. For anybody that's an employer that's looking to lay any employees off, the call center is currently closed, and that I don't think is going to open up until they get a really good handle on the current claims that they're dealing with. Right now, I guess they are up to date, and checks and claims should be answered and payments should be processed and sent out as they normally would. They did say don't try to call, try to do everything related to applications online, just because you're not going to get through. And they decided to close the call center just because they didn't want to have people on hold for 6 to 8 hours, basically. So they just decided to shut it down. So if you're going to file any claims, just do everything online. And if I guess that website is up and running and they're not having issues, which I kind of find hard to believe, but they're saying it's up and running and everything's running pretty smoothly. And this was as of Friday. So as you guys all know, this is every 4 to 6 hours, there's a new update from somebody. So we'll just have to wait and see. Trump's been on every few hours, it seems like, the last few days. So there's obviously, we've gone over the 2 loans that are available. It sounds like they're looking to get some additional funding for both the SBA and I forget the name of the other that capital loan that's available.
That capital, they had a loan that they announced that Massachusetts governor announced last Monday. It was through the Capital Growth Corporation, and I had a video I'll put together for it. It was up to $75,000, and they ran out of funding in 4 days. So that was $10 million. They ran out of funding. They're trying to get more funding. That was $75,000 per company. So yeah, 3%.
So they're aggressively looking to increase the funds available for both of those loans. Those are really the only 2. If you're looking for funding, besides credit cards and lines of credit, those are the 2 loans available right now currently. They're working with a lot of local banks to come up with some different types of packages that they can sell to get money into people's hands quickly. So they're trying to come up with some different things related to funding. As there's obviously a lot of people trying to apply. We've taken several calls this week related to that. And we'll probably be posting some more information related to both of those applications and how the best way to go about handling those applications will be as we get more info on this. So those are really the 3 big things. There is a 4-month deferment for the SBA emergency loan. So if you're unable to, if you end up getting the loan and you can't pay it, there's a 4-month deferment that you can make. Let's see. One other thing, especially for a lot of our clients that are in either the trades or they're contractors, we had a specific question related to inspections. So if there's any builders that are on this call, you may have known or seen or had issues with trying to pull permits and get inspections done this past week. So what the state was saying is that this is really being left up to the individual towns and the individual inspectors. So if there's an inspector in your town that feels it's safe for him to be out and just continuing to work, then that person will be out doing their day-to-day regular job. If the town or that specific person doesn't think they should be out, they won't be. So that is kind of a problem because there's obviously a lot of towns and cities that are doing these shutdowns and putting shelters in place. And from the call that I was on Friday, it sounds like the state has some conflicting ideas on what they would like to see open. Because the feeling that I got is they're looking to keep businesses open as much as they can. And they're really hoping to avoid any further shutdowns and things like that. So there's a little battle going on between what's happening locally versus what's going on with the state level and what everybody's ideas are related to that. So I think, let me see what else from these notes. Just to go back to the state not really following up or releasing anything related to the tax extension. There is basically a petition that's been put together to extend the mass deadline. And we can forward the link. There's an email that can be sent to the Secretary of the Treasury for the state to see if they'll push that along. I'm assuming that we'll hear something hopefully this week, but maybe not. There's nothing as far as updates on their website or anything like that. So we'll have to see how that's going to play out. But I would assume they're going to extend the personal tax deadline.
So what he's saying is, I just want to clarify what Jake is saying is that the IRS has extended their deadline. I guess we should have clarified this before, but as of right now, Massachusetts hasn't technically done it.
Can I say something about that?
Yeah, go for it.
Yep.
The state society, Massachusetts State Society of CPAs, is in direct contact with the Department of Revenue. And they're pretty sure that Mass is going to go right along with everything the feds do, what the IRS does. So chances are very likely that Mass will be extended up to July 15th, including payments. And I want to say one other thing. You were talking about loans. You were talking about all Massachusetts stuff. We have some Florida clients that might be on this. So I wanted to mention something about Florida. Go to the Department of Financial Services Florida Department of Financial Services website, and you can look in there. I don't know much about them, but I do know their state is coming up with a pretty good loan program. I think it's up to $50,000 or $75,000, similar to what Mass is doing. And you can look there if you're Florida. Same thing with the sales tax in Florida. They're going to be deferring the sales tax payments. So check in the Department of Revenue website, Florida Department of Revenue, and look for information there about it. That's all.
Okay, there's more. I think people have, I'm sure you're all distracted with your kids at home and whatnot. So I just want to go over some stuff that we've already gone over. People keep asking questions. So the tax deadline the federal tax deadline has been extended from 4/15 to 7/15. You do not need to file like an extension for the 7/15. It's just an automatic delay on the deadline. We will be saving this presentation and we can make the slides available. What about C Corps? Dad, a question. What about C Corps with limousine transportation business? Their fiscal year ends in March. We have some clients that are C Corps with fiscal year ends in February, March.
You want me to answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So if you're a calendar year end and you're a C Corp, you would have to file by April 15th. So you fall within these guidelines. You're extended out to July for both filing and payments. No additional extension needed. It's automatic. Your new filing date is July 15th if you're a calendar year. If you're a fiscal year, which could be any other month of the year, fiscal just means your year ends in a different month than December. We don't know. They haven't addressed that at all. And I'm not going to speculate what they're going to do. But if you've got a March year end, and we have several clients that have March year ends, the due date for the corporate tax return, if you're a C Corp, is July 15th anyway. So that's probably why they're not addressing it. If you're a January year end and you're doing June, if you're a February, you're doing May. If you're February, you're doing June. So, they haven't addressed that, I think, for obvious reasons, because I think they're hoping this problem's going to go away. But if it doesn't, they're going to have to address those later.
All right. Another question. So self-employed person. So if you don't currently take a check or you have a DBA, self-employed, Schedule C, you're not on payroll, you will be eligible for these paid leave, the paid leave and paid leave credits. We don't self-employed. If you're on payroll, that's you're just treat yourself like a regular employee. But we don't know exactly how it's going to be administered yet. Hoping that comes out in the next few days, but you are applicable towards this. Sorry, the questions keep bouncing around or moving. So
Ben actually asked a good question.
okay. Oh yeah, there's more questions.
Just related to the applications.
Oh yes,
So,
yes.
I mean, if you're not one of our clients, it's really not that big of a deal. But we're more than willing to help people out with the actual applications to get those processed and filed. Issues that we're going to see, I think, is the interpretation of the financial info that's needed for those forms. We're going to hopefully do the best that we can and help our clients fill out those specific sections of those applications, just because that's what we do every day. So it's going to be easier for us to handle that stuff.
Like I said earlier, you have a better chance of having probably someone like us prepare these things for you, a better chance of getting a higher loan amount or being approved in general. I'm going to say we are helping clients. We are determining a system internally on how we're going to handle these. I have a couple different options, and we do have, this is a lot of extra work on us, especially during this time. We will be charging a fee for this. I want to just be transparent and clear about that. This is something that it's out of the scope of a lot of work that we do. It's not going to be crazy. It's basically just so we can, we have to pay we're in the same position as everybody else. So we have to pay our employees, and these loans actually take quite a bit of time to put together properly. But we are more than willing to help, and we're coming up with some processes internally of how we're going to handle it and the priorities we're going to take and stuff like that. But I do recommend it's probably worth it to have somebody do it, not go on your own to try to save a couple $100. We will be, let's see here. So we are we're very heavily on social media. People say follow social media. Really, please do. I'm trying to post videos of helpful tips, staying on top of all the latest legislation, credits available. I have a feeling Massachusetts is going to come out with a lot in the next couple days. So we want to stay on top of that. We also need to give explanations for how this is all actually going to work. So please follow us on social media. We send out emails pretty much daily, multiple times a day. We apologize. We're just trying to keep everybody informed. We're not trying to spam you. Attend the webinars like this we're hosting. It's the best way to get the information. For our current clients, it's going to be really, really hard for us to individually speak with every single client about these issues, constantly. So the best way is to read the emails, read the stuff that we're sending out, attend the webinars. We're just trying to help everybody out and, run our business too at the same time. Hopefully there's some other information out there that we can get soon. But our team is fully functioning. We all have phones at our house that, for the office. We have email. We do have for those of you that haven't read our emails, we do have a Dropbox. If you want to physically drop off tax returns, we are taking on new individual tax clients right now. We can do everything remotely. If you have to physically drop off your tax returns, you can. But does anybody have any more questions? I'm either through the Q&A or the chat. Anybody have any fun? And so, I'm happy to open this up if anybody wants to raise their hand, if they want to give any of their special concerns. I can unmute you. Maybe you talk about a concern that you have related to your specific business or industry, and there might be somebody else here that might be able to give you a suggestion, or we might be able to give you an idea or what they're doing or whatnot. If anybody has that, feel free to raise your hand. I'll let this go. You can not like physically raise your hand. You can hit the little thing where you, doesn't look good right now. And I do apologize. It was a little confusing with the credit, but it's just basically the information that we do have available. So again, for individual taxes, if your current accountant is saying they're closed and they're not taking people, and you always go in and physically hand them your documents and sit there for an appointment, that's actually not necessary for a tax appointment. Everything can be done remotely, and then we do a follow-up phone call to go over things. So we're open. You don't want to go to HR Block or something like that, support local businesses here and like us, and we're happy to do it for you. Okay, it doesn't look like anybody's raising their hand, has questions. So, and I understand, and people are texting me, they're still confused. I understand.
So
You're
are
still
we.
confused. We're gonna provide more information. This is a complex, very weird time for us. And for some of you, we can schedule individual phone calls to go over this directly for more in-depth, specifically on your business. But for broad things, we're trying to just do the group things like this, webinars and videos. Erin, you want to restaurant? Go ahead, ask. Oh, I probably should unmute you if you want to ask. How fast do we get money back from the state so we do not run out of cash? I don't know, Lisa, I don't know if you're talking about your individual. Can you guys hear me? Because my computer just shut off. So,
Yeah.
okay. How fast do we get money back from the state so we do not run out of cash? I'm not sure what you mean, the state. Are you talking about individual like tax refund, or because right now the state has not issued anything about tax credits like this. Right now, this is all IRS credits, and it's either you don't pay for payroll when you do the payroll, or you get a refundable credit from the IRS, which they say takes up to 2 weeks, hopefully under, to process. So right now, we're just waiting to hear about the state, what they're going to do.
From that call on Friday, they're the only thing the state's doing is those 2 loans that are available right now. They didn't bring up anything related to grants or
Yeah, they probably
anything
don't want to
outside
talk
of
too
that.
soon.
So I don't know what they're planning to do, if anything. We'll have to wait and see.
Erin, I'm going to put you on the spot. 1 second. Where are you? Erin Murphy owns Sukasa. Where are you? I don't know if you want to ask questions or if I'm just calling you out and you're just going to be mad at me later. You can give me a margarita. It's fine. Let's see. I don't know where you are. How do I talk? I'm trying to get you to talk. I don't know why I can't find your name.
She muted.
Oh, here we go. Allowed to talk. Erin, there we go. Hey, Erin.
Okay. Hi. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Very cool. So basically, if we were to, like, you're saying, like, kind of sit tight, but at the same time, like, plan on running a regular payroll like this week.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yes, that's what I'm recommending. So
Okay.
the only thing is there might be some cash you have to come up with if everybody's laid off and there's not enough credit, quote unquote, to pay people. Right, Dad?
Sorry, say that again.
So she asked, should she just plan on paying people like a regular payroll this week? And I said, yes, there might be a small bit of cash you have to come up with until we can get that refund from the IRS.
For the difference, you mean?
You'll have to come up with the cash to pay them, that's for sure. And then you'll get that money back in the form of a reduced payroll tax deposit. How often do you deposit your payroll taxes?
It comes out weekly, Dad.
Weekly. So right away, when you do the payroll, you're going to be doing a payroll tax deposit. It's going to reduce the payroll tax deposit up to the amount of the sick pay you paid. And if you paid more sick pay than the amount of the payroll tax deposit for that week, then the IRS is going to give you the difference. How they're going to give you that difference is up in the air, but they are going to give you the difference. And they say they're going to do it very quickly. So that means you wouldn't be out of pocket cash for very long.
Okay. Can you repeat that one part where you said if the amount that you pay is higher than.
So,
I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's use an example. If you paid out $5,000 in sick pay this week, whatever week, next week, and then you, at the same time, when you do your payroll, the payroll company is whacking your bank account for the payroll tax deposit at the same time, correct?
Correct.
Correct. And so that payroll tax deposit would be reduced at least as much as the money you paid out for the sick pay. So you paid $5,000 in sick pay, but you paid $10,000 in other pay. So you paid $15,000 in wages. Your payroll tax deposit is supposed to be, say, $6,000, just as an example. The $5,000 in payroll and sick pay that you pay would reduce the payroll tax deposit by $5,000, so you'd only have to deposit $1,000. So that's how you get your money back. That's how they end up. That means Treasury is paying your pay.
So Erin, well, hold on, let me just, because Erin, if you have if you're paying everybody sick pay this week, so I'm assuming you are because you own a restaurant. I don't know. So if the payroll tax amount that you owe is less than the net pay of your employees, you're going to have to come up with the cash for that portion of the net pay that the payroll taxes don't cover. It's not going to be the entire payroll that you have to cover like normal. It's going to be a smaller amount.
Right.
That's why this is confusing. It's like,
and then you're going to get that smaller amount back.
Okay,
Yeah.
that I got it. But we're
Does
just
that
not
make
sure.
sense?
Yeah, 100%. Like,
okay.
Okay, so, but that's the part where we're just not sure exactly when.
How quickly.
And,
Yeah.
okay.
So
The how and when is still up in the air.
how I foresee it ideally happening is once they get this up and running, you have the payroll. Let's say on Tuesday, we know how much your payroll is, how much the sick leave is. I'm hoping that they'll also have a submission form that you immediately with the payroll submit in the difference to get that credit back from the IRS. So you don't have to wait a couple of days to do it. You just do it hand in hand. That's what my ideal scenario is.
So in the end, it ends up being basically a wash, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
But
Unless it's more.
No, it's better than a wash because your employees got paid
Right.
and you didn't pay them.
And remember, for those of you that have health insurance, there's going to be on top of it too, it's the portion of the health insurance, okay? All right, I'm going to go to Meg and Brian.
Hey, can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
So for both of us, we are still able to work, at least under the current, regulations, but our numbers are down significantly. So as far as, what we put in for, for instance, we have already, paid for childcare. We're going to be paying for it again so that we can work. We're home more than we would be, but we're not home completely. What's the best way to try assistance with that?
Meg, you're kind of breaking out. You're basically just saying if you're still working, but not, obviously not to what you normally are, your earnings have gone down. You could technically take a portion of this, I believe, and do sick leave because you're making up. You could take a portion and say sick leave and say this is the amount that I'm lost in income, make that sick leave, and get reimbursed. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think it should be doing individual calls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will, and I can talk to you later about it. I know we do your payroll and I talk to you all the time. So, but yeah, it's going to be hard. Like us, Jake and I are working, we have kids at home, but we're not working nearly as much. So we're business owners are a little different than just straight employees too, and how that's going to happen. But we also don't know how they're going to verify people that were home and not working, or police it, I guess, and stuff like that. So we think it's very broad and kind of open, and like just because they're just trying to give employment and money credits to people, and this is their way of doing it technically, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if that makes sense. Okay.
I think are they voting on this today? I don't know if I heard that right.
No, this is
For
already
the
done.
remainder of the
What they're voting
package.
on is that check. I think the thing which is a separate check to be sent to individuals and families.
Yeah, the remainder of the relief package. I think they're
Right.
voting today.
Holly, I'm gonna go ahead, Holly. Oh, did I unmute you? Oh, I probably should unmute you first. That probably would help. Can anybody? I don't know why I can't. Oh, there we go. Okay. Sorry, Holly, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I know you've addressed it, but I'm still confused. So I don't take a paycheck, and I haven't taken one at all since we started. Besides a big check at the end of the year just to cover taxes. So I know you're saying that you would be eligible for this, but I'm wondering, do I start paying myself now, or how would that work for me?
As far as I'm concerned, you would issue yourself a paycheck even though you haven't been getting them. So just to preface this with saying that employees have to be employed by your company to be eligible for this credit for, I think it was 30 days.
Yeah, I have a full-time store manager.
Yeah.
So I'm going to
Also-
pay her regularly, just like I
Yeah.
normally do. But
Yeah.
then, because I'm not eligible for unemployment, and
No,
I'm
you
not-
are. Oh, well, no, you're not. Like, yeah, because you haven't. Well, you are, but you're, yes.
but I have nothing paid in right now.
So, yep.
If I wanted to take it, would I be able to take advantage of this now that it's available?
Yes.
We
Yes.
think so. We think so.
Yeah. So we can, it's basically issuing yourself a paycheck, sick leave for the amount, like normal, like you would be doing for your employee. But for non-owners of the business, I want to be clear, your employees had to have been employed by you for 30 days to be eligible for this. I believe it's 30 days. I'm not positive, but yes, Holly. And you can collect unemployment for owners that only take like bonus checks once a year, or maybe they just do it quarterly. The unemployment will be based on how it always has been, on your wages over the past look back period of certain periods. So this is probably a better option right now for most business owners too, also, so they don't tax their unemployment account, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Thanks,
Okay. Caesar, I'm gonna, oh, Caesar, you went away. You stopped raising your hand. Did you want to talk, Caesar? Oh, okay, here we go.
I think somebody responded to him about his question with the EMAC.
Well, Caesar, did you have?
Hi, good afternoon, guys. How are you?
Good.
Good, yes. I didn't see if somebody responded to that, but that was just a question that in the EMAC stuff on the, with the states and all the unemployment stuff, had they mentioned anything about like an extension to do that or anything? Because the first quarter is always.
Yes, they actually have. So to paying in your mass unemployment taxes?
Yes.
Yes, they actually, there is something on the website that says you can contact them, and they actually always have this option. You can pay a portion and defer it, but right now I think if you contact them, you will be able to defer all of the mass unemployment tax for the first quarter. I believe it's all, but I know it's at least a portion. I can find the information and send it to you. It just depends on the payroll company, because I know you're not with us. If they've already been impounding it from you, then it's going to get paid no matter what, because it's been coming out weekly. But if it's something that you will do after the fact, then you need to make sure your payroll company isn't going to just take a huge lump sum if you worked out deferring it later on. So I can
Right. I have ADP for my payroll stuff. You know what I mean? I had paychecks in the past and it was a disaster. So I have ADP now, and I do believe that they take every time I process payroll, which is weekly basis, they take everything. But that was my thing.
I'm gonna hop in here. Hi, Caesar, it's Amber.
Hey, how you
I
doing?
just wanted to hop in. I know you did have a question about the EMAC specifically, and EMAC did end with the fourth quarter 2019.
Oh yeah, the EMAC's gone. Yep, sorry, the EMAC penalty's gone. Mm-hmm.
So we don't pay any more EMAC and the quarterly
No, they started the PFML instead, so they got a different
Oh.
fund. They got a different fund instead, but that's being yeah, that's in the EMAC's gone.
Oh, okay. Because I didn't know that. That was completely brand new information for me. I thought that, like, for the past, I think it's 2 years, we've been paying that every quarter.
Yeah, it was a 2-year tax penalty, I should say.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a relief.
Yeah, see, there we go.
On my end. Oh, great. Thanks for your answers. And I am here. I'm just gonna keep listening. Okay.
Great. So just again, you don't need to, sorry, there's nothing to activate. This is just running payroll and note. I'm assuming payroll software companies are going to have a specific pay item that's called paid leave. So when you call on your payroll, you talk to your payroll company, find out how they're handling it pay wise. So I know this is super confusing. The payroll tax is automatic, but I'm assuming they have to have it's going to be a certain pay item called paid leave they'll then be eligible. It's going to be up to the software company, the payroll companies, to update their software accordingly. But I wouldn't just go ahead and put in payroll and add your own pay item and just process it. I would reach out to your payroll company and make sure it's being done right. Personally, I would wait until the last possible moment to process payroll. I know my staff's going to kill me for saying that, but for this week, just to make sure everything's set up, it's kosher on the payroll systems.
And if you process your own payroll, you may want to think about outsourcing that.
Not doing that.
Not.
I don't know how people do it now. It's just way too complicated.
Okay, it doesn't look like anybody else has raised their hand. All right. I think that's good for now. I mean, this is much longer than I thought it would be, but also the tax credits came out, but I'm so glad we got to do this.
Okay, I have to go. If anybody has direct questions for me, just give me a call. I have to go.
Bye, Dad. Thanks.
Bye, Harry.
Goodbye.
If anybody has questions, reach out to us. I am going to go home right now to see our other children, but we're here to help you guys throughout the week. Be patient with us too. We're getting slammed. We're working, but we're getting slammed with all this stuff. We're just learning this stuff as it comes out, trying to stay on top of it. We're also managing our children at home and trying to work out our schedules. Our team is amazing, and thank God we have them. I don't know what I would do without them. Our company is grouped for applicability. I'm not sure, Pepper. We can find out. I don't know, Pepper. Sorry. Just feel free to reach out to us. info@straightline.com, STRATLIGN.com. Again, follow us on Facebook's our primary platform. Please, please, please just follow us and just stay on top. If you do have cool resources you came across for your own associations, your own industry, just something you may not think that other people have knowledge on, please share it with us. We're happy to share it with the community, with our clients. We will try to actually get on maybe another webinar to discuss this in detail, and also get on a contractor that's been through the 08 recession and a restaurant owner that in Boston that's been through the 08 recession to give their ideas and tips and how they got through things and suggestions they have. President of the I think Massachusetts Builders Association we're going to try to get onto. So we're going to constantly be doing this for you guys to help support you guys get through this. I really appreciate you guys, all our clients, being supportive of us and staying and being patient. I understand the cash flow concerns are very real. We're doing whatever we can to help you guys, and hope to, we're gonna be fine and see this through, and it's gonna be great. Everything's fine. We always say it's all fine. We all say, but thank you so much for attending, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. It seems to be a nice day.